Okay, so adding transitions and titles or text. So these are things you're going to be doing last. This is why I covered it last. You're 99.9% of video editing is getting rid of the beginning and end of your video clips, right? Narrowing it down to the chunks of time you actually want by doing what we did in the first video, like doing things like that. We can get rid of some of the stuff at the beginning and the end. Putting them in the right order is going to be another thing, like which order here do you want them to be in. And that's the most of it. The last things, the sort of bells and whistles, are transitions and titles. And generally speaking, you're going to be doing this after your video is already edited. You have everything pretty much the way you like it. Things are in the right order. It's about the same. It's about the length of time you need it to be. Now you just want to add a few things. Well, we'll start with transitions. And transitions, again, mentioned this way back in the first video. Transition is any time one clip ends and another clip begins directly after that. So again, I'm just going to play this, and that video ends and that video plays. That's called a cut. That transition is normal. It's actually, I would probably say that 99% of all transitions in videos, movies, TV shows are cuts, right? You watch a show, one person is talking, it cuts directly to another person, it cuts back to the other person, it cuts to them getting in the car and whatever. It's we're not doing these long drawn out fading transitions most of the time. However, they can sometimes come in handy. So if you want to ease the transition here between this video, not only the video, but the audio. So for instance, my video here, abruptly changes from this drive-by in my car to the fountain, but so does the audio, right? The audio is really, really loud, and then all of a sudden it goes down to almost nothing. So how can we mitigate that? Well, that's going to be back over here. Very similar to, I still have this up from my last video where I typed in key. I'm going to have to close that out or I'll never see any effects that don't have that word in it. We have something just that are called video transitions and audio transitions. So the most common video transition, and the one that probably you can get by using almost exclusively without it looking kind of weird or seeming kind of cheesy, is just what's called a dissolve. So a cross dissolve is going to blend two videos together. So if I were to drag this cross dissolve, let me zoom in here and just really see what's going on. I'm going to put it between these two videos. I'm just going to drag it right here. Notice that I can put it right in between these two videos. Notice there's a tiny little thing called cross dissolve. You can see that they're kind of overlapping here. I'm going to go back and play. And we've done that. Very simply, right? You just drag it over, drag it between two video clips. The only problem with that is that a cross dissolve requires these two video clips to have been longer to begin with. This video has to continue, the first video has to continue playing into the first part of the second video. And also, the second video has to continue playing right at the end of the first one before it even ends. So if these two video clips here were never made shorter, if I never sort of dragged this one to the left and made it a little shorter and dragged this one to the right to make that one shorter, there would be nothing to overlap. And when you drag a cross dissolve or a transition, you would probably get a little error message that's going to say, hey, there's not enough, I forget what it says, there's not enough data for it to work. And it'll still add the dissolve, but what's going to happen is that your video, instead of playing both videos during the cross dissolve, you might see that one of the videos has turned into like a still clip. Like it will dissolve, but it'll sort of be just a still frame until it gets to the point where the video would actually start, and then it would start up again. I know that sounds confusing, but you'll see what I mean when you get to it. Chances are that's not going to happen because you're very rarely just going to bring a video clip in and not have to shorten it. You're almost always going to be getting rid of chunks at the beginning and the end. So this cross dissolve now is between these two video clips. If I were to just decide that, hey, I want this video clip at the end of my video now, if I were to drag this video away, the cross dissolve is going to go away too. It is in between these two video clips. If these two clips change, if the positions of these change and they're no longer together, that's going to go away. If you want to get rid of an effect or a transition that you clicked on, when I click on it, if you notice, it moves it up here into my effect control so we can kind of zoom in on it. But I could click on that cross dissolve and delete, and now it's just gone. So you can get rid of them very easily. You could also click on it and make them longer. By default, this cross dissolve, I don't know, it's a certain amount of seconds. Oh, it's actually 1 second. When I mouse over, it's 1 second long, 1 second and 6 frames. Yours might be longer or shorter. The default might be 5 seconds, I'm not sure, but you can always change it. So just like we can do with video clips, we can mouse over it and I can make it longer. And so now the cross dissolve is going to happen much more slowly. But again, it's a nice, smooth transition. You can do it up here too. You could click on that and make it longer or shorter. So there's that. Now, what about the audio? So the audio abruptly, it goes from loud to not loud, right? It's like a really stark cutoff. Well, there is a audio transition. There's not very many. Crossfade, constant gain, and constant power. Both seem to do about the same thing. I usually use what's called constant gain. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag that in between these two video clips. And now the audio is going to blend. So this first video that's very loud is going to, like, the audio is going to dip down. And the second video is going to just kind of ease in as well. Right? I can make it even more gradual. So again, these sort of abrupt changes in audio or video sometimes are good. Sometimes we want that. But otherwise, if it sort of doesn't make any sense to do that, if you want a nice blending and want the video to flow much more gracefully, that can really help. However, both of these effects can also be added at the beginning and the end of your audio or video clips. So for instance, this is my video. Like this is the beginning of the video. The very first frame of the video shows this. So if I were to open this video up after exporting, open it up in QuickTime or whatever video editing or video displaying app I have on my computer, it's going to start abruptly. I mean, it's going to start with this image and just start playing, which could be okay. What if we want it to fade in a little bit, though? Well, then you could actually drag your cross dissolve to the beginning of your video clip, and it is going to fade in. It's going to start black and do this. Okay, so it's a gradual fade in. I could click on it, and I can make it longer, and I can make it fade really slowly. On the other end, I could drag it to the end of my video here, and it's going to fade to black, which is, again, really good. I think adding a cross dissolve at the beginning of your clip, even if it's only a second long, even if it's just a little tiny bit of a fade in, really is nice. It's like it when your video starts abruptly, it can be kind of jarring. And the same thing if it ends abruptly. If it's just like, and gone. It's odd. We don't usually see that happen in a lot of videos and movies and things, so it's kind of jarring. So you can put those at the beginning or the end of a video clip to fade them in or out. And we can do the same thing with the audio. If I don't want the audio to start abruptly, I could put a constant gain at the beginning, and the audio is going to fade in as well. Let's make it fade in the same amount of time as the video. Right? Same thing could be, I could put that at the end, of course, and it's going to fade out the audio. Just make sure you're putting it on the audio. Can't drag an audio transition onto the video or vice versa. You have to make sure you're putting it on the right thing. And there we go. So again, I just think it's things, and you can get it. There's all these other weird, there's not many other audio transitions, but there's lots of video transitions. There's like 3D effects and page peeled things and zooms and wipes. The thing is, a lot of those kind of look kind of interesting, but most of the time they're not necessarily going to help your video at all. They're just, it's like, okay, I just threw this random transition for no reason. So again, like barn doors and stuff, like what the heck? I don't know. What does that even mean? Okay, so it does that, right? I don't know. Why would I want that? Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. The thing about everything that I've been talking about in the last couple videos, the video effects and the transitions and things like that, only use them if they enhance your video. Don't use them because, oh, I think I need to add a transition to make this just more interesting for sort of no reason. Like, no, like that's kind of like a amateurish sort of YouTube thing, you know, like these 12-year-old kids that make all these videos and like everything, they want to put a different transition between every single clip or whatever. And it's sort of like, okay, visually, I guess it's sort of interesting, but if it doesn't fit the aesthetic of your video, doesn't make sense, don't use them, or just use these simple ones instead. Anyway, so that's how video transitions and video and audio transitions work. Really, the last thing I think that I really need to cover is how to add titles and text to your video. So the text that can show up in your video can either be over top of video, so you'd see your text on top of the video that would be below it, or it could be over black. And basically, it just depends on where you put them. There's several ways of doing this. I think one of the more the ways I like to do it is actually the way that Premiere used to work back in the day, and that's actually by going to oh my gosh, what am I? Oh, I'm sorry. File, New, and then we want to do what's called a legacy title. So we're actually creating a new sort of clip that we can edit and put wherever we want, but it's just going to have text. We could add shapes and things too, but basically that's what we want to do. I'm going to add the title, a legacy title. Notice when I do this, once I click on this, behind the text that I'll be editing, I'm going to see this here because that's where my playhead is. So if I just go to legacy title now, first of all, it's going to ask me what height and width do I want it to be, what time frame. This is just leave this the same. This is going to match your sequence. So you don't want to change anything. Yes, you could change the name of your title if you want, but I'm not going to do that. We could do it later as well. When I click on OK, this box pops up that shows me this little preview of what my title is going to look like. But notice that it has this video behind it, right? Because that's where the playhead is. Sometimes that's a little distracting. So what I might suggest is before you actually start typing, move your playhead to the end so that it's just over black. There's nothing there. Now you can actually see your thing here without being distracted by what's going on in the background. And here, there's several different tools. We have like different type tools, horizontal and vertical. You can type on a path, which basically, if you want it to, you could draw a line here with the pen tool, like a curve, and you could make your text go across it. We just want to do standard text here, standard kind of title. So what I'm going to do is drag a box, and then I'm going to say, I'm just going to put in the title. And when I do that, it's not centered or anything. Look at it; it looks kind of horrible. But once I've typed that, I can center it here. Over here, I can align it as well. So here is now it's horizontally centered. Now it's vertically centered. And if I happen to get my selection tool up here, the little arrow, and click and move it, right? Maybe I do want it somewhere like that. But if I click on these, it's going to put it right back to the center again. Now it's centering the box, not my actual text. This text box is definitely centered, but my text is at the top of that box. So if I do something like this, now it's in the center. So it's centering the box, not necessarily the text within the box. Anyway, again, or you can manually move it around, right? If you want it to be a little bit above the horizon line. There's a ton of different things that you can do here. So if I highlight my text, I can come up here and make it bigger or smaller with the size. All this stuff's over here too. So, the font size, I can basically click and drag my mouse, and I'm clicking and dragging my mouse to the right or up, and it's getting bigger, or I could get smaller. If I make it bigger than the text box, it goes away. That's kind of a problem. So if you need to make your text box bigger, you have to click on the arrow key and make sure that it's selected, and then you can make it bigger. And then I'd be able to go back to my type tool here, select this, and make my font bigger. You can change all of your font styles here, right? Like, here's Arial or whatever. If bold and italic and all that stuff is available, it's here. The leading and the kerning is basically going to affect the spacing between the letters, right? So I can kind of do stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to back up because I don't want to do that kind of stuff. What else? You change the text color over here. Oops, just messed something up. So here, if you want a different text color, you can click here and make it whatever color you want. I would say stick to white text. White text is going to look probably the best almost all the time. Colored text is sometimes really hard to read, right? It's like, it depends on how bright it is, I guess. You could also add a stroke to it. So a stroke really, again, is a line that's going to go around the outside. That is not going to do anything right now because there's black here already. But what a stroke could do is, especially if, I did not want to add an inner stroke. I want to add an outer stroke. There we go. Again, it doesn't really change anything here. But if my text is going over top of video, then it's going to show more. It's going to show a little bit better. So again, if I move this back, right? So now I have this little bit of a stroke around the outer edge. And if I take away the outer stroke, okay, it's still there. Oh, there it goes. I can still read it, but it's way better with that stroke. So anyway, I'm going to center this all up. You can do as much as you want here. Of course, you could hit return, and you could put more more text below it. The fact that this is overlapping is probably because my leading changed. The leading is the space between your lines if you are working in the same text box. So that's what I accidentally did before. And now I can put this here. If I need more room here, again, I'm going to go back to my type tool and do this so I don't run out of room. And again, I can move these farther away if I wanted to. I don't want to, but I could. So there's that. There's also all these preset styles down here of text that has strokes, and some of them have strokes, some of them have drop shadows added to them, which you could also add over here. You could add a drop shadow here, just like you can add a shadow to a layer in Photoshop with text or whatever else. So there's that. So what the heck, though? How do I make this? How do I finish this thing? Well, it seems kind of weird, but you're just going to close this box out. You create your text, you close the box, and now back here in your project area where all of your videos were before, now you have your title. And you can click and drag it and put it wherever you want in your video clip, in your timeline. So if I move this over here to the beginning, I can put it here. I could put it, I want to put it over top of any of this video. It doesn't really matter, but it's going to look like that now. Anything that is not text is transparent and allows the video to show through, the video that's underneath of it. If I wanted it to be over black and then I want my video to start a little later, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag a box around all of these videos to select them all, and I'm just going to move them here. So now I would have this at the beginning, and my video starts right there. If your text is not long enough, like it doesn't last long enough to read it, drag it longer. The longer you drag it, the longer it's just going to remain on screen. So there's that. If you want to edit your text, all you have to do is double click on it right here in your timeline, and you're right back to editing it. Make your changes, click the X out of it, and you're right back to here, and all of your changes would be saved in that new video. Again, I'm calling it a video clip because it technically is. It works exactly like a video clip. I could even come over to my effects and add a cross dissolve to the end and a cross dissolve to the beginning, and now my title is going to fade in or out, so it's not going to be super abrupt. Right? That to me is much nicer than just the text showing up and then immediately cutting to the video, right? Like without it fading in. So I don't know. I think that just playing around with a couple of these things really helps. Again, if it's over top of a video, the video is going to play underneath of it. And there we go. So that's how you do a still title. Your credits could be the same way. So if your video project requires you to put credits, which generally means you're going to acknowledge anyone who helped you. So anybody that maybe appeared in the video, if somebody helped you with the camera because you were appearing in the video yourself, you want to give them credit. If you are using sound effects that you might find online, you should give them credit as well. And there is a really good website called freesound.org. to get tons and tons of royalty-free video clips. Freesound.org has it's all user generated. So you'd go to freesound.org. You don't need to create an account just to listen to any clips, but you have to have an account to download them. It's free. You just create a free account. Any video, any audio clip that you click on to listen to, there's a little button that says download. And you'd be able to download it. You can import it just like you would video, and it would be right here, right with all your videos. You'd see your audio clip, and you could drag that in as well. Now, freesound.org is all, again, user generated, and it's not really curated. So it can take a while sometimes to find really good quality audio clips. But the good thing about them is they're royalty free. The only thing is they expect you to give them credit. So if the person who uploaded it, if their username is Bieber53, when you download that audio clip, let's say the audio clip is Rain and Thunder. The name of the audio clip right here would be Bieber53 _ Rain and Thunder. So all you'd have to do is, for your credits, is just to say special thanks to freesound.org user Bieber53. And you put that at the end of your video. And any of the other people that you would steal video or steal audio from. I say steal, but it's really not. You can actually put your own audio clips up on there and track how many people download them as well. And of course, if you were putting audio clips up there for people to use, you would hope they would give you credit too. So that's what you would need to do. The credits in your video, first of all, they don't put credits. Don't put the actual word credits in your video. No film or high quality video has the word credits on top of the credits. They just start. Like, we know they're credits. You don't need to put it on there. Sounds weird that I say that, but it's because lots of people tend to do that. Your credits can just be still like this. They could just fade in or out, right? This could just say, filmed and edited by Don King, and just be the way this is too, just a still video. But if you want them to be what's called rolling credits, right, where they're going to roll up from the bottom and kind of go towards the top like they do at the end of films, you have to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to come up here and go to File, New, just like before, Legacy Title. I'm just going to name this credit so I know right away what they are. It says My Awesome Video here now. I did not add any text to this. It says it because that's where my playhead is right here. Now, if I start typing my text over that, that's going to get very, very confusing. So I'm going to put it over here. Big text box. Oh, what else? My daughter's going to be in this video. Not really, but can't see what's going on here. I'm going to need to drag this up a bit because I need my text box to be a little bit bigger here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just making up words. Okay. Maybe this is a little bit too big of text. I want to make that a little. There we go. Maybe I want to center it all. Boom. All right, so let's say I want this to be scrolling text. Well, that's what this little, wait, which one it is? That's what this little icon right here can do. It's a tiny little icon here. But when I click on that, it is set as a still title, which is exactly, the default. But we want it to roll. And rolling credits, again, are going to start at the bottom and go towards the top. We want it to start off screen and end off screen. So what that means is that it's going to start way down here, and then it's just going to go past and go away and go up towards the top. Crawling credits are going to go left to right, like a ticker along the bottom of like CNN or whatever, right? With like a news ticker. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to roll credits. Click OK. Get rid of this. Here's my credits. Move them over here. Put this in a video in a video slot, and boom. Now, if those are going by too fast, make it a little bit longer. The longer rolling credits are, the slower they're going to roll. So it's going to give you a little more time to read the stuff. Okay. If this were over top of my video, it would look like this. So we have that. Again, if it was going to be over top of video, I'd probably go back and add a stroke because it's a little hard to read some of that some of that text due to the I don't know why this. Oh. What the heck is going on here? Go full screen so I can see what's going on here. But I could come down here and add an outer stroke. And it's going to show up a little bit better over top of my video. So again, very, not rocket science with these, but basically it does turn your credits into, or your title into a little video clip that you can put wherever you want. Rolling credits, you probably don't need to add cross dissolves or anything. I mean, there's no reason to. They start off screen, they go off screen, and you're just fine as far as that goes. All right. So once again, if I wanted to export this as an actual video clip to turn in, I would make sure that this is all selected here. I would go up to File, Export Media. It remembers now. So this is the same video that I made last week. So it remembers all of the settings. I'm not going to have to go into that. It's already H.264. It's going to be called mountain.mp4. If I don't want it to call that, I could just put it here and say my awesome video onto my desktop is fine. Then I would just come down here and export it. It is going to export the video and audio together, which is, again, default. I'm not going to go through all that because that might take a minute. The longer your video is, the longer that's going to take to export. So anyway, so that is video editing in a nutshell. Again, I know these are long videos and there's a lot of stuff to look at here. The main thing is you can't really screw stuff up. I mean, you can, but it's never the end of the world. So if you're even if this just gets ridiculously confusing, you could just delete all this stuff. You could go right back to your palette and just kind of start to drag these over. And these are unaltered. All these videos that are in your palette over here, they are, when you add an effect here, it does not affect them here. So you could always get clean versions of your clips back right over here. and put them back in your timeline and start from scratch. Alrighty. So that is it for this. So again, that should cover just about. I mean, there's still tons of things that that Premiere can do, but that's probably going to get you by with any of the projects you're going to need for this class.